to write.
I write most of my stories in the first person, and I put myself centre stage in almost all the stories that I write. Sometimes I even call the main character Michael, because I can't think of anything else. I'm that pathetic. But I do put myself at the heart of a story, particularly if I have to feel that I'm there. Now, for instance, I wrote a book called Private Peaceful. I wrote this book because of one thing I came across in a museum. I went to a place called Ypres in Belgium, which is the site of a terrible battle in the First World War. There's a wonderful museum there called In Flanders Field. I was walking out of the museum in tears because it's such a powerful evocation of the futility of war, as Wilfred Owen called it. So you come out feeling wretched, and the last thing I saw was a little letter in a frame on the wall. And it said, "Dear Mrs. So-and-so, we regret to inform you that your son, Private So-and-so, with a number, was shot at dawn for cowardice on such and such a date, 1916. And just above the little letter was an envelope, ripped open. And as I saw the rip, my mind just went straight to the mother. And I could see her standing there, opening this envelope, knowing it was bad news, and then discovering not only was her son dead, but the manner of his dying. How terrible that must have been. And then I thought, hang on, it's not good enough just to feel this. Find out more about it. So I went to the museum. I said, how many soldiers were shot for cowardice in the First World War? And he said, over 300, and that's just on our side. And you just can't imagine a world where that sort of thing happened. I found it shocking. And then what I discovered was that all these years later, this country had not pardoned them. So I thought, write a story about it. How do you write a story about it? I thought, somehow you have to find the voice that shines the camera, if you like, at the story in the most powerful way that you possibly can. And in this particular case, what I decided to do was to tell the story from the point of view of one soldier. There are two soldiers in my story, brothers. And you don't know in the story which of them is going to get shot. What you do know is that in the morning at 6 o'clock, when it always happened, something terrible is going to happen. And you're with one of these soldiers. And I tell it in the first person. I'm going to read you just half a page. This was my attempt, really, to become a 17-year-old young man writing, speaking in 1916. And it begins 10:05. They've gone now, and I'm alone at last. I have the whole night ahead of me, and I won't waste a single moment of it. I shan't sleep it away. I won't dream it away either, I mustn't, because every moment of it will be far too precious. I want to try to remember everything, just as it was, just as it happened. I've had nearly 18 years of yesterdays and tomorrows, and tonight I must remember as many of them as I can. I want tonight to be long as my life, not filled with fleeting dreams that rush me on towards dawn. Tonight, more than any other night of my life, I want to feel alive. It's tumbling upon things, you know. I mean, I was lucky enough, privileged enough to, 35 years ago, to meet in my pub at home in Devon a soldier who had been to the First World War. I knew he was an old bloke, he was in his 80s by then. And I knew he'd been there, but I didn't know any more about him. I hardly knew him, really. And I sat down and had a half a pint with him. And I just asked him the question. I said, what regiment were you in? He says, I was in the Devon Yeomanry. And then he said something wonderful, which I've never forgotten. He said, I was there with horses. I said, what do you mean with horses? He said, well, cavalry. And then he started talking, and he started talking. And he told me what it was like to be 17, to leave these shores, to go across with the yeomanry, and find himself in this appalling, appalling war. How he felt petrified, and how he found comfort in talking to his horse each night when he went to the horse lines to feed it. And he would talk to that horse as if it was his best friend, because it was his best friend. And he meant it. And I thought, this is the most extraordinary thing I've ever heard. Someone like this who talks to a horse. And then I thought, I'm not sure anyone's told this story of a horse. And maybe if you told it through the horse's mouth, you could tell the story not just of the British side or the German side or the French side, but a story of the universal suffering of the First World War. You have to forget when you're sitting in front of an empty page, I think, that you are writing. What I've discovered is the best way to do it is to do what most kids like doing, which is to talk a story. You talk it from your head where the dream time has been, down your arms, through your fingers onto the page, and you let it flow, which means mistakes and all. You don't worry about the spelling, you don't worry about the punctuation. I'm sorry, but you don't. Not the first time. You just get the stupid thing down there. I think it's rather like an artist sketching, you know? When an artist is sketching, it's letting the line flow, capturing somehow the image of it. And that's what I do when I first write. I tell it down onto the page and then craft it afterwards.
What I want to talk about this morning in this circus tent outside a big castle is happiness. In relationships, people go, oh, I just really want to make you happy. Or, why are you dumping me? I don't know, I'm just not happy. I want to be happy. Right? Or, as I read in the paper yesterday, excuse me, sir, why are you kayaking off this 30-foot waterfall? I don't know, it just makes me happy. Right? I want you to do one thing. Write, it might be a lie, but write, I am happy. That's all you need to do. I am happy. Now, I want you to cross out the word happy because it's rubbish. Yay. Okay. Now I want you to replace the word happy with something that means happy. For instance, I am a golden pinball machine, or I am a diamond toilet seat, or I am a huge roast dinner, or I am a paper bag full of light, or I am a... what's your favourite thing in the world? I am Pokemon. Is that your favourite thing in the world? In the world! Oh my god! A lot of the time in school, poetry is presented maybe as something that's studious activity, or something that you have to decipher like a crossword, or something that belongs to dusty scholars on dusty shelves in the past. So, that's perfect! I'm a Dorito! I'm a pizza with what on top? Pepperoni. Bubble wrap! Amazing! Tomatoes. I am a shoe! Few more. Father Christmas. Moo cow. Say eating hamburgers makes you happy. You wouldn't say I'm eating a hamburger. You just say I am a massive hamburger. Do you understand? Yeah, cool. Because a lot of times, especially in poetry, you know, people kind of think it's a bit like it has to mature like cheese, and you can't really be taken seriously until you're 40 and you've got a beard. I am money in a bag feels like better than I am money, doesn't it? A bit like a sculptor, you need the block of stone in order to carve something out of it, you know? So you don't want to be afraid of writing rubbish. Just get rid of the empty page. Just write whatever comes into your head, you know? Chips to the power of 2. Yeah, it's all in the details.
And ketchup.
And is happy cows part of it? Or is that a second one? Oh, of course. Oh, of course. I'm sorry. Of course, I'm an idiot. Nothing is right or wrong, you know? We kind of just wrote as many images as we could and then made a big poem out of it. I'm a nice spot on someone else's nose. It was electrifying. It was really, really good. I am a Dorito. I am bubble wrap. I am music. I am mass destruction. I am pizza with pepperoni. I am money in a bag. I'm a shoe. I'm a kite. I am the annoying spot on somebody else's nose. I am a red lava lamp. I am snowy days. I am George Clooney in a leather Italian suit. I am a chipmunk. I am high-pitched singing voices. I am a turtle. I am a piranha. I am an empty house, thick with peace. I'm a strawberry. I'm a candy unicorn. I am a carrot. I am SpongeBob. I am Pingu. I am Father Christmas. I am a plethora of tall mountains. I am a rubber duck. I am a Mexican moustache. I'm a Lego man. I am a moo cow. I am the tuna that you find in sandwiches. Woo! That's you. I didn't mind any of that.
I'm a novelist, and that means that I have to write something long and continuous, and I have to do it every day. I think poets work in a slightly different way. This may be why there's such a lot of First World War poetry, but no First World War novels. You can't write a novel in the trenches, because you can't guarantee you're going to be there next day, never mind be able to finish chapter 3 or whatever it is. Because writing a novel is not a sprint. It's not something you do in a hurry. It's something you do over a long time. So if you get discouraged when you're doing a long piece of work, don't worry. Accept it. That's part of the job. That's part of what writing is. This feeling that you don't know what to write next, and you're bored and you're fed up and you hate it, you wish you'd never begun. Good. You're doing the right thing. That's what it's like. I write about fantastical worlds because I'm lazy. I can't be bothered to go and do the research about the real world. It's much easier, much less effort to sit at my desk and make it up. I never make a plan for a novel when I'm writing, but I do look forward to bits that I'm going to write. I do think, well, when those two characters meet up, I'll enjoy that bit. Put yourself into the scene. What would you see if you were there? And what is important about what you see if you were there? The story is always the governor. In the book I'm holding here, The Amber Spyglass, which is the third part of his Dark Materials, there was a passage I was looking forward to writing. It's a passage when two important characters meet for the first time. The two characters I'm talking about in this case were the boy Will and the bear Yorick Birnison. Now, Will is a boy from our world. A very ordinary boy. There's nothing special about him. Will, he hasn't got a special destiny or special powers or anything like that. But he's discovered a weapon, a knife. It's called the subtle knife. A knife that can cut through anything. Now, Will and the bear have never met. They've never come face to face. But this is when they do. Will put his rucksack down and hoisted the helmet up on its end. He could barely lift it. It consisted of a single sheet of iron, dark and dented, with eye holes on top and a massive chain underneath. It was as long as Will's forearm and as thick as his thumb. "So this is your armour," he said. "Well, it doesn't look very strong to me. I don't know if I can trust it. Let me see." He took the knife from the rucksack and rested the edge against the front of the helmet and sliced off a corner as if he were cutting butter. "That's what I thought," he said, and cut another and another, reducing the massive thing to a pile of fragments in less than a minute. He stood up and held out a handful. "That was your armour," he said, and dropped the pieces with a clatter onto the rest of his feet. "And this is my knife. And since your helmet was no good to me, I'll have to fight without it. Are you ready, bear? I think we're well matched. I could take off your head with one blow of my knife, after all." Utter stillness. The bear's black eyes glowed like pitch, and Will felt a drop of sweat trickle down his spine. Then the bear's head moved. He shook it, took a step backwards. "Too strong a weapon," he said. "I can't fight that. Boy, you win." Will knew that a second later the people would cheer and hoot and whistle, so even before the bear had finished saying the word win, Will had begun to turn and call out to keep them quiet. "Now you must keep the bargain. Look after the wounded people and start repairing the buildings. Then let the boat tie up and refuel." The bear spoke quietly, in a voice that seemed to throb as deeply as the ship's engines. "What is your name?" he said. "What do you seek?" "I'm Will Parry. You're going up the river and I want to come with you. I'm going to the mountains and this is the quickest way. Will you take me?" "Yes. I want to see that knife." "I will only show it to a bear I can trust. There is one bear I've heard of who's trustworthy. He is the king of the bears, a good friend of the girl I'm going to the mountains to find. Her name is Lyra Silvertongue. The bear is called Yorick Birnison." "I am Yorick Birnison," said the bear. "I know you are," said Will. Write whatever you like to read. If you're interested in writing professionally, don't think of the market for 1 second. Publishers always want to say, write something that's like the one that was a bestseller last year. We want another bestseller, therefore you write one like the one that's gone before. I'd say exactly the opposite. Write only what you think nobody else will be interested in the world but you. But write that, because that'll be the thing that'll come most deeply and truly out of you, and the thing that'll make most impression on other people.
I think one of the most useful things that anybody ever said to me was an agent, literary agent, and she said, you know, we wouldn't expect a violinist to pick up a violin and start playing, you know, Bach's sonata, and yet we do expect writers to sort of write this peerless prose without anything. You're allowed the nuts and bolts, you know, just in the same way that a musician will have to practice their scales. That with writing as well, you can write about ordinary things, and you can write about familiar things before you make yourself go off and do the really scary, difficult stuff. Even just getting home from school and getting straight on the phone to your friends, if that's something that really gives you pleasure and really is an important part of your life and your day, then that's something you can use to write about. That's a starting point for writing. Some writers like to plot it all out and know where they're going and have a lot of the stuff filled in. I remember Hilary Mantel once saying that when she first started writing, she used to have yellow post-it notes all over the wall saying exactly what was going to happen at each stage. And some writers just like to dive in and start swimming and hope they don't sink. And that's what they like. So I think it's horses for courses. And again, I wouldn't want to say you've got to do it this way. I think it's all about giving people permission to find the way to write that works for them. Go off and in the next 2 days just note down a bit of conversation you've overheard between two people, and then use that as the starting point for a little story or a play or, you know, something. But there's material all around us all the time. Dive right into the character you're writing about or the situation you're writing about, and that's the only way to forget you as the author, as the writer. So you think to yourself, okay, what is this character? How does this character eat? How does this character think? How does this character tie their shoe? Or whatever. That was just an example. But the only way to escape from yourself and that self-consciousness is to lose yourself in whatever it is you're writing. Some people write because they want to be heard, and some people write because they've got something they really want to say, and some people write just because they can't stop themselves. Some people write because they want to change the world, and they're all really valid reasons. And you only need to know why you want to write. You don't need to know why anyone else wants to write.
We're going to concentrate on holidays, not necessarily the holiday you have just had, but a holiday that you have been on.
It might be like the holiday when you were 3 years old, it might be a holiday when you were 10, any kind of holiday. It could have been a terrible holiday or a really great holiday, it doesn't matter. Well, the idea was to get the children writing some stories. It's as simple as that.
Hey, Daniel, what you did?
Belgium, innit?
What did you see in Belgium?
Huh?
What did you see in Belgium?
Cheese!
Is that it?
Yeah? Cheese and houses!
You have to start by giving them quite structured tasks to do, which would then lead in to an exercise where they actually literally had to sit down and write out a story.
We went into the village and we were in this shop there, and it was really strange because I had all these puppets, and then randomly one of them started going, "I love you," and then started laughing in an evil accent. It's so weird.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that's great. But often there's real gems there. You wouldn't necessarily get a story with a beginning, middle and an end, but you'd get a wonderful phrase or an image or something funny or a great little character observation.
I could feel the comfort softness of the ground below and taste the barbecued food through the hallway.
The idea of what they could see and feel and hear and taste.
I remember smelling the fresh mountain tops. So pure, it reminded me of peace.
And then we gave them a genre, so comedy or whatever you get given, and your celebrity. And your celebrity is your main character in your story. Simon Cowell was one and Beyonce was another. And they had to put those three elements together, their memories, the genre and the famous person, and turn it into a story. Simple.
Right, what do you think? Kissing.
You could have people being upset and
Tragic. Death.
we're going to do a tragic love.
Like a tragic love story, that's what we're thinking about.
You can write about anything. There are no entry signs with writing. You can write about anything. It's not like this really, really complicated thing that only sort of famous people can do.
Simon Cowell sped down the gloomy, menacing streets of San Juan, Ibiza, looking for that pathetic, greasy villain, Louis Walsh. Louis was happy dancing the Macarena with a teacher called Miss Hughes, who he had just met at Oceana. I don't know why that's funny. OK, calm down. Oh, look! Exclaimed Miss Hughes. There's Simon Cowell. Louis took one look, turned and ran to Simon's roller outside. Swiftly, he hot-wired it and raced off into the night and crashed the car. Got you now, smiled Simon. and quickly texted his mum the news that Louis was being done for drunk driving, knowing that the news of the world would be reading the text within minutes, and he would get his popularity back for a start.
Now, what I want you to do is I want you to think of the two sides of your personality. One side of you might be really, really helpful, really want to just, yeah, no, what's about with that? The other side of you might want to just stay in bed forever. One side of you might really want to be kind to people, you know, and really care whenever you see anyone else in pain, you know. But the other side of you might be kind of feel angry and aggressive and, these people are so annoying. Okay, so I want you to give a name to the two sides of your personality. You might want to do something simple like Jack and John, or something more complicated. Don't think too much about the names. And write me a poem, each telling me what they get up to. Go. There might be a moment when the two sides of you have to meet, or they come into conflict, or something happens, or there's a situation where one of them has to take charge. If any of you are really trying to rhyme it and you're getting this thing where you're like, dog, log, hog, fog, right, just break out of the rhyme, because, you know, otherwise the rhyme ends up controlling you, you know? Like, I generally say don't bother rhyming. If you're finished, you can just sit there and stare into space and think about how cool you are. Okay, cool. Let's hear some.
Charlie likes to sing in the rain and dance away yesterday's tattooed pain, but Ron likes to pick people up and dangle them 70,000 feet from a purple crane.
Right.
Oh my god. Right. Bill looked in the mirror, Ben stared back, giving each other glares.
Bill liked talking to carrots. Ben liked wrestling bears. Bill loved riding his unicorn along the sea.
Ben liked using a plough pot as a head.
It might not be perfect poetry, but actually it's poetry you can't write when you're older.
This isn't the best poem I've written.
Oh, sorry. You must never apologise before you read anything. Ever.
I'm not sorry
ever.
for anything. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, this poem says quite a lot about me. It doesn't rhyme, but yeah, don't expect anything too bad.
I'm sorry.
All right. I take all that back. Okay?
My soul is burning fiercely, never connected. The embers are burning the metaphorical bridge, the gateway of separation. I'm bathed in a dark loneliness, yet I'm surrounded by friends and loving family.
It was just lovely to see them all laughing whilst writing actually really quite serious and funny and poignant stuff.
My voice projects to you this very moment to say our blueprint is the same. Let's put a full stop to the hate and let's put a full stop to the fighting.
You know when you close your eyes just before you fall asleep and you have that kind of cinema rolling on your eyelids? Yeah? We all have a different cinema, we all have a different film playing, right? And all those pictures and memories and dreams and kind of mad thoughts, that the way that you personally link stuff together, that's your material. You know, that's what you use to write. Also, what's the point of feelings otherwise, right? We're full of this stuff, yeah? Where do we put it? Right? Poetry gives us a place to put it. Thank you very much. You've been amazing.
One of the things that happens when you are a writer and you kind of say to yourself that you're a writer is that you get more faith in your own process. You think that after I've tackled this rubbish idea a few times and after I've applied all my best tricks to it, it will get better. There isn't any point in rattling around with the idea that you might be a writer one day, it might suddenly happen to you. You've actually got to start writing.
What I wanted to write about is we've all been today in this amazing castle. It's quite a strong place. It's a place with a strong personality. It's something that's worth writing about. We're going to be writing a poem, and for me the basic unit of what a poem is an image. It's when you use a picture out of your senses, out of your concrete information about the world to bring your idea of something alive. And the other basic unit of a poem is comparison, analogy, when you say something is something else or is like something else. So we're going to be thinking about all the things that this castle is like. If this castle was an animal, what kind of animal would it be? And try and be really specific. If this castle was a kind of food, what sort of food would it be? If it was a pudding, what kind of a pudding? If it was a joint of meat, what sort of meat are we talking about? I want it very specific. I want the adjectives in there. I want the colour, I want the smell. This castle was a time of day. What time of day is it? Is it a late night place? Is it the middle of the night? Is it noon? Is it late afternoon? Is it stormy? Is it a tranquil afternoon? Is this castle spring? Is it midsummer? Late autumn? Is it in its winter?
It is the dusk just before the sunset, about 6 p.m, and the wedding cake looks like a rusty old bus. Honey badgers roam the gravel driveways amongst the Ford cars with their leather smell, and the Rolls Royces parked up calm as sloths. The turkey has been thoroughly stuffed. The curry is thick with raisins, and if you listen hard, the castle is breathing like a dragon and whispering, "Off with his head," and "Save me, I'm gonna collapse." Nothing is real, and the English breakfast tea tastes cold but sunny. A silver plate crammed high with mussels, chips and lamb chops is carried past by an old deaf butler. His hearing aid isn't arriving until Tuesday. Everything is covered in dust, but the dust is clean. Clean as the silver back of a gorilla. Clean as the slice through the meat of a wild boar when it's bleeding with red wine sauce. Darlings, let's sit here together and smell the cigars, because nobody outside can reach us, and we can stay until the sun goes down, wearing old cardigans, eating sherry trifle. There you go.
I think if you're a writer, you have to live a really interesting life. You have to talk to people, listen to people, go places, read books like crazy, fiction, non-fiction, watch telly, watch movies. Simply drink the world into your head so that you have this huge well full of the events of your life.
One of my favourite stories when I was a kid was about two siblings who had to share a bedroom and they hate each other, and they put a skipping rope down the middle of the bedroom, and so one of them gets the window and one of them gets the door, which immediately raises problems. And I've never been able to find this storybook again, but the story has really stuck with me.
Memory is very important, and memory of what we felt like at a particular age. Memory of what was the first kiss you ever had, the first time you ever heard a piece of music that later came to mean a great deal to you. Things like this. If you keep those memories fresh, you'll be able to draw on them.